All right, so we had Randy Tritt out here yesterday, structural engineer, friend of mine. And he said he really was curious to see how this thing was held together. So I cut a bigger hole. Cat says I love cutting holes, but I really don't. So I'm gonna try and get this angle right. Right there. Y'all can't see what I'm trying to do. God damn it. Let me try it. That shadow line. All right, I hope that shows up. Right there, I can see that web butting that column, and there's not a weld on it. I don't know if you can see it. I wish I could. Focus. Focus, focus, focus. Anyway, take my word for it. It's not welded to the column in between that gap in that flange. So a couple things, at least I think I've discovered, is we've had this theory about these, because these columns are loaded on these I-beams off center, and again, this is just theory, we feel like, as Randy called it, in torsion, they're not really great. So we think the beams, as I tried to illustrate once before, are rolling because they're not loaded dead center. They're loaded off the sides. So I measured this LVL, it's 16 inches on the money. I measured this I-beam, it's 16 and a quarter on the money. And then, I don't know if y'all, can y'all see that bubble? So again, this is another piece of steel that's not level on the top flange. So if I level it, I'm going to call that a 16th on 3 inches, let's say. 10-inch beam, so that's, let's say for argument's sake, that's 3/16 out of level. And you see that, that's more than a 1/4 inch. That's more like, I'd say 7/16 of an inch. And I found this a little surprising. So I got this little flat bar. So there's not, that LVL currently is not loading up this mud sill. Just for point of reference. So I couldn't find the weld, started panicking again. Cut the elevator off, came in the and then found the weld. But I don't know what the hell I'm looking at, because Randy was trying to tell me, he said if he had inspected some of these welds that he saw, he said he'd get a new inspector. So I don't know if it's a good weld or not. But what I do know is he also told me, in principle, when you do these clips, whatever, gusset clips or whatever the hell they're called, you're supposed to weld both sides of them, because there's one upstairs that's just got 2 little spot welds that he wasn't happy with. So I know the other side of this can't possibly be welded because I can see it. I can see this weld, but I don't know that, I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I don't know that it matters that it's on the radius of that column, because that's what I was saying the other day. I was like, you know, there's not going to be anything left to weld to if they keep moving the beam this way. But I feel a little bit better because at least somebody tried to do something. But the other interesting thing that goes to my theory of rolling, you see that gap? Fuck. That gap. The other side is flush, and as I said, it's out of level this direction. So again, my theory is I think they loaded that beam with brick, and that thing sat there for months because he didn't come back and weld all these. He didn't come back and weld the headers till the end, if I remember correctly. So I'm wondering if they loaded this beam, because the other thing we discovered is you can see the mortar, and right there where that last bit of mortar touches, you see the end of the steel beam and the plywood, you can see the little sort of round impressions of the brick. So that tells me that the brick isn't loaded on the I-beam fully either, which in and of itself, as Randy said, may not be a big deal. But it's just an illustration of why this beam is possibly rolled out of level. So I can't articulate this. If this LVL is 16 inches, this is 16 and a quarter. But if you roll it 3/16 on 10 inches, the diagonal becomes higher. So the elevator side of this beam is probably, what is that, 16 and a quarter, 16 and 7/16 to 16 and a half. And this is still 16. And as I showed you, I can move it. Now, I don't know what that proves, but somebody smarter than me can probably figure out a way to explain why that tile cracked. Because I'm wondering if that plywood is bearing on that steel, but the steel is angled up to like 16 and a half. There might be like a hollow spot there, and people walking on it finally cracked it. But all theory. But at least Cat can have some solace in the fact that somebody at least cared enough to attempt to do something correctly. I don't know that it is correct because it's not welded over here. It's none of this shit. It shouldn't be like this. I keep harping and moaning about the $1 million homes, and this is the one project of that individual's career where he should have gave a shit about something. But he didn't. And it just keeps piling up and piling up and piling up. It's just a hodgepodge of shit. So I want to try and relay this information to Chris, the tile guy, and see if he can make heads and tails of it. I'll show you something else that, is not dead hardcore evidence of anything, but it just, again, goes to my theory of all these beams aren't parallel or not square. We have to take for granted that this corner is correct, the framing. But fuck. You know, but the framing to the edge of the steel is approximately 3 inches. Come down here, and it's 3.5, and that's in about a 3-foot span. So you run that variance across the length of this house, and that might be. I keep telling everybody we're missing 2 inches, and I bet that's what it is. It's 2 inches. There's a 2-inch fuck up in these plans somewhere. I swear to it. I can't find it. I know it's there. I found the other one in the pantry. I can prove that. Anyway, Kat, I don't think your house is going to collapse. I just don't think it's right.